Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. At least 80 people have been injured after Israeli forces clashed with Palestinian protesters outside the old city of Jerusalem. Israeli forces used stun grenades and water cannons to disperse the protesters. The latest violence comes a day after Israeli police stormed at Al-Aqsa Mosque and injured over 200 Palestinians. Tensions have mounted in the city amid growing anger over the eviction of Palestinians from Jerusalem homes. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani says a deal has been reached with the world powers to lift main sanctions on Tehran. Iranian state media quoted Rouhani as saying that the US and the Europeans have agreed to return to the 2015 nuclear deal during Vienna talks. President Rouhani added that only the details remain to be agreed. However, there is no immediate confirmation from the US or the other parties to the accord. The death toll from a car bomb explosion outside a school in Afghanistan's capital Kabul has risen to 58. Interior Ministry spokesman Tariq Aryan says the death toll may increase further. Medics say at least 150 people were injured in the attack. India has registered over 4,000 COVID-19 deaths in the past 24 hours and more than 400,000 cases for the fourth consecutive day. Meanwhile, South Africa has detected the first 4 cases of the coronavirus variant that emerged in India. In Pakistan, 118 people lost their lives to the virus and nearly 3,800 tested positive in the past 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.2 million lives and infected over 157 million people. Well, these were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now the news in detail. At least 80 people have been injured after Israeli forces clashed with Palestinian protesters outside the old city of Jerusalem. Tensions have mounted in the city amid growing anger over the eviction of Palestinians from Jerusalem homes. More in this report. Another night of Israeli troops' atrocities on unarmed Palestinians unfolded in the occupied West Bank. Israeli forces attacked the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood yet again, wounding many, including women and children. The occupying forces used stun grenades and water cannons on the protesters. Palestinian media says many were arrested and jailed over refusing to abandon and surrender their homes. Over at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the Israeli army battered tens of thousands of worshippers as they prayed on Muslims' holy night of Laylatul Qadr. Palestine Red Crescent says the scores of injured people included minors and a 1-year-old.
They do not want us to pray. There is a fight every day. Every day there are clashes. Every day there are troubles. They've been stopping us from entering inside the old city for a whole week. Why? They did not allow us in yesterday. Why? Why are they doing this to us? They're making us crazy. They're making us explode. Look how they're firing at us. How can we live? How can we live? Is this a normal life? What is this? Look at the problems. Look how they're standing around. They're throwing bombs at us and they can't see anyone.
Condemnations continue to pour in from the international community against the oppression of Palestinians. Pakistan condemned the attack on worshippers, saying such brutality is against the very spirit of humanity and human rights law. The Middle East Quartet, United Nations, the European Union, the US, and Russia urged Israel to exercise restraint. Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Oman rejected Israeli measures to evacuate Palestinian homes in Jerusalem. Meanwhile, thousands gathered in Istanbul in front of the Israeli consulate to protest brutalities against Palestinians. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan called Israel a terror state and said Ankara had launched initiatives to mobilize the international institutions.
Kudüs'te Mescid-i Aksa'ya ve
We
Müslümanlara
want the
yönelik
heinous attacks on Al-Aqsa and Muslims in Jerusalem to stop immediately. There are nearly 300 wounded since it started. We expect all pressure, direct and indirect, to remove Palestinians from their homes to stop. Otherwise, we will do everything we can to ensure the cruel are sentenced to the fate they deserve.
her türlü
In the West Bank's southern district of Hebron, the oppressive regime's soldiers stormed a Palestinian refugee camp, wounding dozens. The situation is no different in Gaza. Israeli soldiers fired many live rounds and concussion grenades at farmers near Khan Yunis city, while Israeli Navy ships attacked fishing boats near Gaza city. Overnight, the Israeli forces also launched a rocket attack against an alleged Hamas facility in Gaza. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani says a deal has been reached with the world powers to lift main sanctions on Tehran. Iranian state media quoted Rouhani as saying that the US and the Europeans have agreed to return to the 2015 nuclear deal during Vienna talks. President Rouhani added that only the details remain to be agreed. However, there is no immediate confirmation from the US or the other parties to the accord. Earlier in a tweet, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif said the US has an obligation to help revive the nuclear pact. Zarif noted that the crisis was started by Washington with its withdrawal from the nuclear deal 3 years ago. The death toll from a car bomb explosion outside a school in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul, has risen to 58. Interior Ministry spokesman Tariq Aryan said the death toll may increase further. Medics say at least 150 people were injured in the attack. President Ashraf Ghani blamed the attack on the Taliban. However, a Taliban spokesman denied involvement, saying the group condemns any attacks on Afghan civilians. Meanwhile, Pakistan has strongly condemned the attack and killing of civilians. In a tweet, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi expressed solidarity with Afghans in their fight against terrorism. India has registered over 4,000 COVID-19 deaths in the past 24 hours and more than 400,000 cases for the fourth consecutive day. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.2 million lives and infected over 157 million people. Details in the following report. The coronavirus pandemic situation remains most perilous in the South Asian region. As the crisis continues to worsen, India has received more ventilators and vials of drug remdesivir from Canada, Austria and the Czech Republic. Meanwhile, South Africa has detected the first 4 cases of the coronavirus variant that emerged in India. The latest research shows that UK variant and the Maharashtra double mutant strains are behind the exponential surges in the tech hub of Bengaluru. Amid spiking deaths, a number of southern states of India has imposed stricter lockdowns.
He was my relative and his name was Vijay Kumar Jaipal. He was coronavirus positive for the last 10 days and was admitted to a private hospital. Last evening he got a bed in civil hospital here. He was 35 years old and has 2 young children and he passed away this morning. His children are very young and his wife is hardly 32 years old. May no one face such a tragedy ever.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi called on the EU to support the proposal by India and South Africa to waive patents on COVID-19 vaccines. Pope Francis has also backed the US proposal to waive intellectual property rights for vaccines. But CEO of the drug maker Pfizer says the proposed waiver would disrupt progress made so far in boosting vaccine supplies. German Chancellor Angela Merkel also opposed waiving patents, saying it could jeopardize the quality of shots.
I made it clear that I do not believe that giving away patents is the solution to make vaccine available to more people. I believe that we need the creativity and innovation of those firms, and that is why I believe in a patent protection.
In the US, declining demand for vaccines is causing states to refuse their full allocations of doses from the federal government. Meanwhile, in Australia, New South Wales extended social distancing and mask-wearing rules by a week as authorities hunted for the source of a small outbreak. In Pakistan, 118 more have died from COVID-19 overnight. The Health Ministry says the death count has reached 18,915. The ministry said more than 3,700 people tested positive in the past 24 hours. It said the caseload has crossed 858,000, out of which over 757,000 have recovered. The number of active cases in the country is approaching 82,000. Earlier, Pakistan received more than 1 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine under the COVAX program. Arab coalition in Yemen says it has destroyed an explosive-laden drone launched by Houthis towards Saudi Arabia. In a statement, a coalition spokesperson said the drone was aimed at Khamis Mushat city. But the Houthis claim they successfully hit King Khalid air base in the Saudi city. Rebels have escalated regular cross-border attacks in Saudi Arabia and a ground offensive in Yemen's Marib region. In Myanmar, the anti-coup protesters have continued their protests in the country. In Mandalay, members of student unions from universities took to the streets to protest against the junta. Myanmar military rulers have also branded the rival National Unity government a terrorist group, blaming it for bombings and killings. Bombings are reported daily and local militias have been formed to confront the army. Earlier this week, the National Unity government announced that it will set up a People's Defense Force. The junta said the Unity government and the new force would now be covered by the anti-terrorism law. According to an activist group, security forces have killed at least 776 civilians so far and detained nearly 4,000. In Nigeria, gunmen have killed 7 police officers in a series of attacks in the southern oil hub of Rivers State. Police said attackers opened fire at a checkpoint and then drove on to hit 2 police stations. They added the police fired back and killed 2 of the assailants. The killings come amid deteriorating security in Rivers State and other parts of Africa's largest crude exporter. Last month, the state banned people crossing its borders at night in a bid to stop the killings of security forces. In Scotland, pro-independence parties have won a majority of seats in the parliamentary elections. In a statement, First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said she will press ahead with plans for a new referendum on leaving the UK. Sturgeon said it will be absurd and outrageous if London tries to ignore the democratic will of the people. Her Scottish National Party has returned for a 4th consecutive term in the office. Meanwhile, Irish Sinn Féin Party said a victory by pro-independence parties in Scotland is significant for the campaign for the Irish unit. Nationalist Party leader Mary Lou MacDonald said the results showed that politics in the UK is undergoing fundamental change. The election's results sets the scene for a bitter clash with London as Prime Minister Boris Johnson has dismissed the possibility of a referendum. In the UK, Labour's party Sadiq Khan has been re-elected as the Mayor of London. Khan saw off his main challenger, Sean Bailey, who was the candidate for Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Conservative Party. He won by 55.2% to Bailey's 44.8%. Speaking at City Hall, Khan promised to strain every sinew to help build a better, brighter future for London. He said the results of the elections around the UK show the country remains deeply divided and the scars of Brexit have yet to heal. Khan had focused his campaign on creating jobs and boosting London's tourism economy. More news stories coming up after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the United States, a key pipeline carrying fuel to the East Coast has been shut down by its operator after being hit with a cyber attack. In a statement, Colonial Pipeline said the attack had affected some of its IT systems. It said the company has engaged a third-party cybersecurity firm to launch an investigation. It noted the software used in the attack was ransomware, which is designed to lock down systems by encrypting data. Industry officials say hackers most likely belong to a highly professional criminal group. Russia says it will strengthen Tajikistan amid rising tensions in Afghanistan. President Vladimir Putin made these remarks in a meeting with his Tajik counterpart in Moscow. He said the situation in Afghanistan gives rise to well-founded concerns in Dushanbe. Putin said Russia will strengthen its military base in Tajikistan. The Taliban launched a major offensive across Afghanistan this month after the US missed a May 1st deadline to withdraw troops. China says debris from its rocket that was hurtling back towards Earth has disintegrated over the Indian Ocean. It has finally ended days of speculation over where the debris would hit. China's state-run media said parts of Long March 5-piece debris landed at a point west of Maldives. But China's space agency said most of it was burned up in the atmosphere. The main segment from the vehicle was used to launch the first module of China's new space station last month. From jumping off choppers to parkour, the male-dominated world of stunts is attracting an increasing number of women in France. In a school in northern France, nearly a third of the student body is now made up of women. More in this report. Women who once worked as makeup artists or dancers are now aspiring to join the challenging world of stunts. 29-year-old Valeriana Michelani says she wants to show that women can perform wall flips just as well as men.
I am a dancer and a show performer, so I'm used to thriving in a graceful and feminine world. And now I'm in quite the opposite. I'm quite masculine and like brawls.
Professional training in the school takes 2 years, with 10 training periods that encompass acrobatics, parkour, and combats. In total, students need 800 hours of training to graduate.
Each time we take in 14 newcomers in each training period. There are around 7 women each time. It's the spirit of diversity almost each time, and all the better. It's good for the campus spirit. It's good for diversity. It's good for the job market. And it adds a touch of girly tenderness.
In the past, finding stunt women for films and shows were a hard task. But with the film industry's growing appetite for female superheroes, demand for women's stunt performance has increased. Several students of the French school have entered working in action films as well as live shows. Now it's time to have a look at the weather update across the globe. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.